What if much of what you think you know about ancient Rome isn't quite accurate? Today, we are challenging widely held beliefs about gladiators, emperors, and even those iconic marble statues. Did the thumbs down really mean death in the Colosseum? Was Nero truly indifferent during Rome's Great Fire? I'm Massimo from Crown Tours, and today we explore 5 common misconceptions that might just change how you see one of history's most influential civilizations. But before we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've all seen the scene. The brave gladiator stands over his beaten opponent, waiting for the emperor's signal. A thumbs down means death, while a thumbs up means mercy. This image is famous thanks to movies like Gladiator. But is it really true? To understand, we need to look at how Romans used gestures to communicate. Some sources suggest that a crowd might shout out words to express what they wanted. They might have shouted "Mitte" for mercy or "Jugula" for death. This is something that I usually talk about inside of the Colosseum. To my audience, I normally say, okay, look around you. The Colosseum could hold between 50 and 85,000 spectators. We have to think practically here. If the use of a thumbs up or down was true, then who was counting 85,000 spectators? Secondly, we can expect that when people were shouting either mercy, mitte, or jugula, death, we are in a stadium, so we have to imagine a stadium body language. People were animated. People were shouting. If they were shouting for mitte, they seemed to be showing their right fist up. If they were shouting for jugula instead, it would make perfect sense to think that with their hand or thumb, they were pointing at their throat. The thumbs down could have existed, but pushing towards down, basically replicating the gesture of a blade going into the adversary's body. Next up is the brutal belief that gladiator combats were always fights to the death, a bloodbath for the entertainment of the masses. There's no doubt that gladiator combats were violent and that some fighters did die. But the idea that every match ended in death is hard to believe. Gladiators were valuable. When we're talking about gladiators, we're talking about professional warriors. Consequently, before they would start fighting inside the Colosseum or any other gladiatorial arenas, those gladiators had to be trained for it. So an investment was done beforehand. In ancient Rome, there existed a figure known as the lanista. In today's world, a lanista could be considered to be a casting director or a producer. In a nutshell, he would be the gladiators' provider. Do you need to sponsor a game in ancient Rome? Who are you gonna call? The lanista. So if every gladiator cost the lanista 2 years of time and money, well, trust me, he did not want to lose his gladiator in 10 minutes. Losing a gladiator wasn't just losing a life, it was a financial loss. Also, records and tombstones showed that many gladiators fought in multiple matches and even retired. A gladiator named Flamma fought 34 times, won 21 matches. He was offered his freedom 4 times, but he chose to stay a gladiator. A gladiator fighting the Colosseum would have had 90% chance to survive a battle and 10% chance to die. But all in all, it seems that the ancient Roman audience was a big fan of a clean victory. So why do we picture constant death in these games? Partially, it's because of Roman leaders used the games to show off their power over life and death. Modern movies and media have also exaggerated the violence for the sake of drama. Looking closely, a gladiator combat shows a more complex story, one where skill, entertainment, and survival were just as important as violence. One of the most enduring images of imperial neglect is that of Emperor Nero feeling as Rome was consumed by flames. But did it really happen? First, let's clear up a common mistake. The fiddle or violin didn't exist in 1st century Rome. Nero was known to play a cithara, a type of lyre, and he was very interested in music and the arts. When the Great Fire of Rome broke out in 64 AD, reports differ. The historian Tacitus says that Nero was in Antium, about 30 miles from Rome, when that fire began. When he heard about it, he returned to Rome and helped by opening his gardens for shelter and arranging food for people. But other historians who wrote years later suggest that Nero sang about the fall of Troy while watching Rome burn, hinting that he was either indifferent or possibly involved in the fire. We should also consider the political situation. Nero's rule ended badly, and later accounts were often written by those who disliked him. Some accused him of starting the fire to make room for his ground-building plans like his golden house, Domus Aurea, but scholars debate this. Modern historians generally see the story of Nero failing as a metaphor for poor leadership rather than a real event. It reflects the idea that Nero ignored or mishandled the crisis. So, the image of Nero fiddling while Rome burned likely comes more from a political propaganda and later exaggeration than from the truth. We all know Julius Caesar is the most famous Roman emperor in history. No, it's wrong. But the doubt is legit. So much so to the point that it's now something that by default I always say when I lead an ancient Rome-based type of tour. Asking whether Julius Caesar was an emperor or not is legit because, if we think of it, isn't he the most famous Roman figure ever? Isn't he one of the most famous historical characters of all time? Besides, his assassination is the most famous in world history. Add to that he died shortly before Roman society would shift into an empire. Ergo, the doubt is legit. The huge success that Caesar had in his lifetime. He conquered Gaul, which is modern-day France. This conquest gave him a huge military and financial power, not to mention the fame that he acquired among citizens. Besides, not only did he become the most influential politician in the city of Rome, gaining the title of Dictator Perpetuum, but he also became the supreme priest of Rome, the Pontifex Maximus. Julius Caesar was like the head of the state merged with a pope, which is exactly what every single Roman emperor would be after Caesar's assassination. As a supreme priest, Caesar had the right to live in the Roman Forum, and on the day of his assassination, the 15th of March, 44 BC at 4:30 p.m., he walked to the place where he died, the Largo Argentina Square, from his house in the Roman Forum. This is why I'm like, the doubt whether he was an emperor or not is legit. However, long story short, Caesar does not have to be considered a Roman emperor because during his day and age, Roman society was a republic. Although Caesar was not an emperor himself, he certainly pioneered the Roman emperors. He paved the road for a new type of ruler, that of an emperor, which would start not even 20 years after he died. And for the record though, the first Roman emperor, Octavian Augustus, was Julius Caesar's grandnephew. Roman statues and buildings were pure white, representing classical simplicity. In reality, the ancient city of Rome was vibrant and full of colors. When talking about the ancient city of Rome, we'd better always remind ourselves that if nowadays Rome is the capital city of Italy, well, in ancient times, it was the capital city of the empire, from England to Turkey, from France to Northern Africa. Rome was the capital city of that vast territory. What does that entail? It entails that Rome had to appear visually overwhelming. Those people that would come to the city of Rome from every part of the empire, they had to be in awe when looking at Rome's monuments. If in modern times we would like to find a city that in some ways could be perceived by us the way that Rome was perceived by the people in the past, we need to think of cities like Las Vegas or Dubai. Those places that, by today's standards, appear visually overwhelming for us. And that's what Rome was to the outside world. Would you like some examples? Both the columns dedicated to the emperors Trajan and Marcus Aurelius, they were colored from head to toe. The Arapacis altar, for example, which you get to see close to the mausoleum of Emperor Augustus, that was also painted. Not to mention the Colosseum. On the inside, we know that the Colosseum's side walls and ceilings were beautifully painted. We also still find here and there some little and original frescoed walls, colored frescoed walls in the Colosseum. The idea of plain white marble became popular during the Renaissance and neoclassical periods. So many artists and architects back then admired ancient Roman art and were inspired by it, not knowing that what they were seeing had lost its colors. In ancient Rome, the colors were organic. So that is why, especially for those statues, buildings, and monuments that were kept outdoors, the colors faded away. It was only in modern times that scientific studies have found out that ancient Roman art in buildings were decorated in many colors, a practice called polychrome. Techniques like ultraviolet light and pigment analysis have shown traces of red, blue, green, and gold on many artifacts. Recognizing the Roman art was once colorful helps us understand their world better. It challenges us to rethink what we thought we knew and appreciate the wide range of their artistic expression. As we explore these misconceptions, it's clear that history is often more complex than the simple stories we've heard. By looking closer, we do not only correct the record, but also gain a deeper appreciation of the people and cultures that shaped our world.